Namaskar, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Thank you all for joining into the satsang today. So we will start with the prarthana. By the Guru's grace and by the will of Shri Krishna, we have all assembled for this Gita satsang. May we have their guidance to be able to learn and adopt the things which will help us to grow spiritually. We will now recite the prayers. We will chant. You can chant in your places. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Krishnaya Vasudevaya Haraye Paramatmane Pranatah Kleshanashaya Govindaya Namo Namaha Namostute Vyasa Vishala Buddhe Pullara Vindaya Tapatra Netra Yena Tvaya Bharata Taila Purnaha Prajvalito Jnanamaya Pradipaha. So with that, we will go over now to the first shloka of today. Monaji has volunteered to recite the shloka. You can go ahead, Monaji. Please unmute.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Yeah. Om Shri Paramatmane Namaha. Atha Prathamodhyayah. Dhritarashtra Uvacha. Dharma Kshetre Kurukshetre Samaveta Mamakah Pandavaschaiva Kimakuruvata Sanjaya.
Thank you so much. Very nicely recited. Monaji has put a lot of effort to get this perfectly right. So thank you so much, Monaji, for that. So the meaning, the literal translation of the shloka, I will read out and then we will go over to the explanation. So, Dhritarashtra Uvacha, Dhritarashtra said, O Sanjaya, after my sons and the sons of Pandu assembled in the place of pilgrimage at Kurukshetra, desiring to fight, what did they do? So this is the literal translation of the first shloka. Ramanujadaya Patram Jnana Vairagya Bhushanam Srimad Venkatanathaaryam Vande Vedanta Deshikam Yo Nityamachyuta Padambuja Yukma Rukma Vyamohatastaditarani Trinaya Mene Asmad Gurur Bhagavatosya Dayaika Sindho Ramanujasya Charanau Sharanam Prapadye. So bowing down at the feet of the Acharyas, we will try to take a look at the explanations which have been given by them for this first shloka. So in this shloka, there are different things that we can look at in detail. These pictures which you are seeing on the screen here, they are from the site at Kurukshetra. By God's grace, I have been fortunate to visit this place once. And if you have not yet gone there, please do make it a point to keep it on your list of places to go. Kurukshetra, which comes in Haryana, in that place, there is this banyan tree, which is said to be the witness to the Bhagavad Gita. It's called as the Akshaya Vatavriksha, the immortal banyan tree. And there you have a replica that has been created of the chariot which Krishna was driving and with Arjuna seated on it. So this shloka that we are talking about, to understand the background of how this situation came about. We are all aware of the entire story of the Mahabharata, and it is not our aim to go into the details of that story, but we know that there was a gambling match which was rigged, and then because of that the Pandavas were forced to go into Vanavas and then 1 year of Agyatavas, and then after that when they came back and asked for what was rightfully theirs, it was refused to them. And that was the time when it was decided that there will be now a fight with the Pandavas on one side and the Kauravas on the other side. So this shloka that we read is at the beginning when both sides have assembled together. Now Dhritarashtra and Sanjaya are speaking. Dhritarashtra is asking Sanjaya, what is the reason for that? A little before the Yuddha was to begin, Vedavyasa had come to the court of Dhritarashtra. And at that time, he blessed Sanjaya, who was like kind of the secretary of Dhritarashtra, with Divya Drishti, with divine vision, so that whatever was happening on the battlefield, Sanjaya would be able to see that. And so Dhritarashtra sat down with Sanjaya. They were sitting in their palace in Hastinapura, and this Yuddha was going on in Kurukshetra. And there, Dhritarashtra is therefore asking Sanjaya, because Sanjaya can see what is happening there. So he's asking Sanjaya that after my sons and the sons of Pandu assembled in this Kurukshetra place, what did they do? So the few things that we have to look deeper into here are, firstly, he refers to this Kurukshetra as Dharma Kshetra. So when we say Dharma Kshetra, it is implied that it is a place where one naturally has a tendency to have Dharma Chintanam. Wherever the thoughts of righteousness, the thoughts of treading on the right path, those thoughts come to a person, that is called as a Dharma Kshetra. So when Dhritarashtra is asking this question, he is now worried that what is going to be the impact of this Kshetra on whom? On two people. Firstly, he is worried that, about his sons and also about the Pandavas. Now he is hoping that, Yudhishthira, he is Sakshat, the Dharma Raja himself, he is called as. So by some chance, will it be possible that, being in that Dharma Bhumi, Yudhishthira will get so motivated by the Dharma Chintana that he will say, oh, I don't want this war at all. Let us not fight. Let the Kauravas only have the kingdom. I will go away back into the jungle. Will he say like that? He's hoping for that. Dhritarashtra is hoping for that, because then without any bloodshed, his sons will have won the war and they have the right to rule also. That is one fond hope that he's nurturing. Secondly, he is worried that now this is a Punya Kshetra. The Kauravas, Duryodhana, Dushasana, all of them, will they by some chance, feel that they also get motivated by this Dharma Chintana and they say that, no, we will not fight. We will give away the kingdom to Yudhishthira. Will they feel like that? He's worried about that, because he also equally wants and has attachment over that kingdom, and he does not want it to go to the Pandavas. So, wow, out of these two, which is it that he wants? He wants Yudhishthira to give up without fighting. He doesn't want his sons to, not fight. So this is what is running in his mind. And then he is also worried that, okay, if Yudhishthira doesn't give up the fight and he continues to fight, will it be that he is Dharma Raja? The Pandavas are on the side of Dharma. They have Lord Krishna himself on their side. So will it so happen that this place is so holy, and that we know always the holy places, they benefit the persons who are on the path of Dharma. So will it happen that this Dharma Kshetra will end up being an advantage for the Pandavas themselves? Will it mean that my sons who are not on the path of Dharma, will they, be at a disadvantage because this Kurukshetra is Dharma Kshetra? This is the kind of anxiety that is running around in the mind of Dhritarashtra. Now, another thing to consider, when he's saying, Mamaka Pandavas Chaiva, my sons, Mamakaha, my sons, and Pandavas. So here we get a peek into what is the mental status of Dhritarashtra. What is his spirit? He's saying my sons. So when he's saying my sons, he's distinguishing them from the Pandavas as not being his. So this idea that he has that these are mine and the Pandavas are not mine, that comes to the fore here. Now, we know very well that actually it was Pandu who was to be seated on the throne. And then because he was not too well and he had health problems, and then he was cursed by a rishi and had to go to the forest. So it was that Dhritarashtra was kind of like, the guardian who had to sit on the throne until the Pandavas, the Pandu's children came of age. So when actually Yudhishthira and all the other Pandavas were born, then it was actually right that Dhritarashtra should have given up that throne to Yudhishthira, but he did not. He hung on to it with so much of attachment to it, and wrongfully he wanted that his sons also should enjoy that fruit. So all the time, although he does not allow it to be seen outside, and he acts as if everybody is same for me, but in his mind, there is a deep samskar that these are my sons and those Pandavas are not mine. So he wants what is good for his sons, and he is not bothered to stop whatever wrongdoing his sons have been doing to the Pandavas. Right? So then he's also asking the question that they have all gathered on the field of Kurukshetra. Kim akurvata? What did they do? What are they doing? So this is a peculiar kind of question to ask, isn't it? It's like, suppose we say that, oh, she went into the kitchen. What should she go and do there? What else will she do going into the kitchen? She will either cook or she will eat, right? So if you say something which is so obvious, when two parties have gathered on the battlefield with all their armies and all that, what will they do? They will fight only. But what does this indicate? It is an indirect way of asking by Dhritarashtra. But why he is adopting this indirect method? As we already said, his desire is that his sons should win, the Kauravas should win, and the Pandavas should lose. Now, he has that in his mind, but he does not want it to be seen by others. So indirectly, he's asking, what did they do? Right? So that nobody says that he is, partial to his sons or he is unjust. He does not want that to be said by anybody else. So this kind of a feeling of duplicity, right? Hypocrisy, we can call it, that a person feels one sentiment, the feeling is one thing, but they try to project something else. They try to show to the world that they have some other feeling. Actually, the feeling is one of narrow-mindedness, but he's trying to project himself as being very broad-minded. So when this kind of a dvandva, this conflict is there between what is there in the mind and what one tries to show, then always that person will be fearful. That is why Dhritarashtra is so anxious. And he probably knows what is going to happen. As we said in the previous part, that he is worried about what will the effect of the Dharma Kshetra on all these parties. And probably he knows that something bad is going to happen to his sons. But he is like an ostrich. Ostrich means it's a bird which lives in the desert, right? And we know that it has this typical quality that when there is a sandstorm that is coming and the sand is going to be, blown about and it's going to become very difficult, the ostrich does not do something to go away from that place. Rather, what it will do is it will dig a hole in the sand and it will bury its head into the sand, acting as if by burying its head in the sand, things will become all right. So this is called as an ostrich-like attitude, that we ignore things in the hope that if we ignore them, they will become better by themselves. We don't have to do anything to correct them, but they will become better by themselves. This is a typical attitude that Dhritarashtra has shown, and it is visible in his words here also. So this Dhritarashtra we can understand now. We know he was physically blind, but his blindness is not just a physical kind of blindness. It is also a spiritual kind of blindness, because he does not have the drishti of jnana, the eyesight the sight which he should have had, the vision which he should have had based on knowledge, that is missing. He knew his sons are doing wrong all along, right from the beginning when they started developing and cultivating that animosity towards the Pandavas. When they were children, Duryodhana tried to poison Bhima and threw him into the water. When they sent them to that Varnavrata and that Lakshagra incident happened. Then during the game of dice, again so much wrong happened. So all along, Dhritarashtra knew that his sons were doing wrong, but he did not do anything to stop them. So this indicates the kind of spiritual blindness also that he had. In fact, that sentiment of being blind to the wrongs of one children is so strongly entrenched in Dhritarashtra that we actually, I think in Kannada, we have this term where we say Dhritarashtra Vyamoha. And that is enough, you don't have to say any meaning for that. It symbolizes the blind kind of attachment or doting which parents have on their children. So when we say Dhritarashtra was blind, There are two aspects to it. One is about the physical blindness. We know the story for that, why it is told that he was born blind. The king was Vichitravirya. Bhishma had said that he is not going to get married. Now Vichitravirya died. There was nobody, there was no heir to the throne, and that whole Vamsha would not continue. So then it was that Satyavati called Vedavyasa and asked him to invoke the birth of children through Ambika and Ambalika. So Ambika, when she saw Vedavyasa, she was so scared at the sight of him with, all his matted hair, and he was not very pleasant to look at. He had not cleaned himself up. He had come directly from doing so much tapascharya in the forest, and he was just in that condition. So Ambika couldn't bear to see Vedavyasa, and immediately she closed her eyes. And that child who was born to her became blind. That was Dhritarashtra. So that we can say is this physical blindness, right? What he had. There is another story that is told to explain this whole plight of Dhritarashtra. The reason for why he had to undergo all this suffering. We will come to that a little later, but we know why he was physically blind, because of that event that his mother closed her eyes on seeing Vedavyasa. But why do we say that he was spiritually blind? Because he had attachment, that strong moha on his children, that strong attachment to the throne, that strong attachment for wanting power, that strong attachment for wanting his sons to have the throne despite it not being their right. That kind of an attachment is what is responsible for the spiritual blindness of Dhritarashtra. So what is this lessons that we can learn? What can we understand? This shloka, this whole event, the whole background of Dhritarashtra, all this has very important, messages for us also. So the first thing we can understand, as we already talked so much about it, is that sometimes there will be people whom we love, and those people may be going on the wrong path, or they may be doing something wrong, or they may be having certain faults. Then our attachment to those people should not make us blind to see the wrong that they are doing. If we notice them doing something wrong, doing something which is against dharma, which is not on the right path, then we must bring it to their notice. We have to try and point it out to them. We have to take some action, if it is possible, to nip it in the bud. Because if we don't stop it at that time, like in the case of Dhritarashtra, it will become bigger and bigger and ultimately end up causing trouble not only to us and to those people, but also to the entire society. So that is an important thing. So when we notice something going wrong, we must face that. We must accept that, yes, this is not correct. We can't avoid that problem. We can't run away from it. And we can't hope that if I ignore the problem, it will go away. If somebody, especially my children, if they are doing something wrong, then I must find out that a way, to correct them so that they don't repeat that mistake. Another thing is, we must always be straightforward in our dealings with people. We must be straightforward in, how we react to other people. Saying one thing, feeling one thing. When we do like that, then just like Dhritarashtra, we will also develop the constant state of anxiety. Many times, if we are straightforward, we don't have fear that, oh, did I tell this to this person? Did I say that to that person? That kind of a fear will not be there. When we are straightforward, when we are simple in our dealings, then that fear and anxiety will never be there. So that is what is very important for us to get ahead on the path of bhakti. Then from the idea about Kurukshetra being a dharma kshetra, places have a major influence on our thoughts. So what kind of a place we are in, that will definitely influence our thoughts. So most of the time we are spending our time at home. So we must try and keep our house as positive, as pious as possible. And how can we do that? There are a lot of things that people do as per Vastu Shastra, as per, some other science. They will try to say that, okay, this should be in this direction, this area should be in that direction. Then they will try to keep the windows in a particular way, or some other methods they use, right? But when they use these methods, that is only one small percentage of effect that will have. The biggest factor, the most important factor which influences the positivity of our place is the kind of thoughts we have in that place. So by constantly chanting, by constantly praying, right? By doing things which increase the sattvikata, the positive vibrations in our house, we can keep our house holy. And secondly, we must avoid all those activities which cause negative vibrations to develop. Talking bad about other people, thinking bad or wishing bad for others, right? Using bad language. All these things will increase negativity in the environment. Along with that, all the time, if the TV is running, that also gives out negative vibrations. If we are only involving in activities which are tamasic in nature in our house, then that also increases the negative nature of the vibrations. So we must remember that the quality of the vibrations in our house depend very much on our actions and on our thoughts in that space. So along with that, now we will go back. I said that I will tell you this story of the past Janma of Dhritarashtra. For that, we have to come to far ahead when all the Gita is told, everything, the Yuddha is over. And at the end of that Yuddha, all the sons of Dhritarashtra are killed, right? And Krishna comes to meet Dhritarashtra. At that time, in great pain and with great sorrow, Dhritarashtra asks Krishna that, see, what is my papa? What have I done? Why do I deserve this kind of a suffering? I had 100 children. I did not see even one of them with my eyes because I was blind. And now they are all dead and gone, and I have to mourn for them. So how great a misfortune has come on me. You could have stopped them from being killed, but you did not do anything. Why did you allow this wrong thing to happen? Dhritarashtra asks Krishna. So then Krishna tells Dhritarashtra, it is said, that what is the reason why you had to undergo this suffering? Many janmas back, Dhritarashtra had been a king, or in some stories they say he was a hunter. So whatever it is, the king went hunting or the hunter was in the forest. There was a male bird, and this hunter shot down, tried to kill that male bird, but he could not succeed. The bird flew away. So he was so angry that that bird's nest had 100 eggs in it. So he very blindly destroyed all those eggs so that those 100 babies of that bird were all killed. And that is why that male bird, which underwent that suffering of having its 100 children killed, it was destined that Dhritarashtra would, this hunter, in his next Janma, as per the laws of karma, he also had to undergo the same suffering. So then the question arises, fine, then why did it not happen in the next birth? It is said that it took 50 Janmas, and after that, this Dhritarashtra was born with that baggage of karma. So why did it have to take 50 Janmas? The reason is told that, yes, he had done those actions because of which he accumulated the papa, and he had to undergo the suffering. But for undergoing that suffering, he needed to have 100 sons. And for having 100 sons, he had to accumulate enough punya so that he would give birth to 100 sons. That is why for 50 janmas, he had to do lot of punya karmas and good actions. And with that punya which was accumulated, he then was born and he had 100 sons. But because he had to undergo the papa of having killed those 100 birds and the suffering of that father bird, that is why he had to lose all his sons and he had to undergo that same suffering. So what this tells us is that every action, the last point on this slide, that every action we do will have a particular outcome. And that is why we must always remember, before everything that we do, What am I doing? Is it the right thing? Do I need to do this? We must carefully think about this and act accordingly. So that then, at least, if not out of motivation to do good, at least out of fear that what will happen to me if I do wrong, out of that fear, at least, we must remember that we should do the good kind of actions only. So from today's shloka, these are all the things that we can remember, try to understand, and try to adopt in our life. So we said the shloka was Dhritarashtra Uvacha Dharma Kshetre Kurukshetre Samaveta Mamakah Pandavaschaiva Kim Akurvata Sanjaya. So Dhritarashtra asked Sanjaya, what did they do assembling in the Kurukshetra? What did my sons and the sons of Pandu do? So from that, we have drawn a lot of lessons, with the main point being that we must be having Jnana Drishti. We must know what is right, what is wrong, and we must try our very best to always follow the path of Dharma and make sure that people around us also are on that track. So this is what we can learn from today's shloka. So now, if anybody has any questions or anything to say or share, you are most welcome to unmute and go ahead. Yeah, does anybody have any questions about whatever we discussed?
Yeah, ma'am. So sometimes you said in the point 2, right, that we should be straightforward and we should not, we should not stop from saying what is right. But
Yeah.
sometimes, no, for to avoid the conflicts and to keep peace at home, sometimes we just let it go.
Yeah.
So what is right?
Okay, fine. Yeah, that's a very relevant question, good question. And there is no straightforward answer to this, right? So the thing is that it depends on what we often keep quiet to keep the peace. Yes, that is correct. And that is required also, because we can't afford to all the time be saying what we are thinking either, because it may not be required. Now, the idea here is that, is it something which is minor? Is it something which is about my comfort? Right? In such cases, we should let it go. We should not rake it up and make a big issue over it. If it is something that I think it should be like this, or I feel it should be that way, and somebody else is expressing the opposite kind of opinion, then we must let it go. Because then if we always try to put across our point and say our way is the right way, then that is because of our ego, and that is not good for us on the spiritual path. However, if it is something where obviously, very obviously, it is against dharma, it is against the righteousness, in such cases, we must definitely point it out. Then by keeping quiet, we are also contributing to that adharma which is happening. But for that, we need to be very sure that that is a matter of dharma and adharma. It is a matter of something right and something wrong. In cases when it is our personal opinion, it is our personal feeling, it is about what I like or what I don't like, there we need not always put our foot down. But if it is a question, like let us say our child has done something wrong and they have hurt somebody else, then yes, we must tell them that this is wrong and you should not behave like this. If there is some act which maybe a spouse has done, which is something that I think it should not have been done like that, but actually it is not a major issue, or it is not something where there is a question of dharma and adharma, then in that case, it is okay to let it go. But if it is a question where they have done something wrong, then very obviously we must make it clear that this is not the right way. And then in getting them to mend their ways, there may be different techniques that we can use. It is not always that by just, blabbering our opinion, we are helping people to change. If helping somebody to change requires us to use a little tact, to use some other techniques by which, we don't go and confront them, but we make them realize that there is another way of doing it. You should not be doing this. If we can get that message across in some other way, then that also can be considered. It's not always that we have to talk loudly and make a big hue and cry and get them to follow the right path, isn't it? So that we need to decide based on these particular circumstances. For each case, it will differ. Does that make sense, what I said, the answer?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else has anything?
So yeah, it's not a question, but I don't know. A lot of times we find elders and all, our parents and all, or maybe in-laws, we feel that, what they do, a lot of things they say is not the right thing. But then we are like, okay, we respect them, so we let it go. And it is also observed by our children. And then our children get really wild. Okay, why are you not telling them? But a lot of times you've explained them, but they don't follow it. So we are like, it's okay. And, but sometimes it causes conflict with our kids because they don't get it. And we feel that, okay, they are parents. There can be so many reasons they are behaving in a certain manner.
Yeah.
But they have done also so many things for us. So it's okay. We need to ignore. But to get it, to give the same message to kids, it becomes very difficult at times.
Yeah, true. That is very correct what you are saying.
What is the right thing? At times I am really confused. How much of benefit of doubt you keep on giving to someone? If it is parents, or if it had been some other person, I think I wouldn't have given so much of benefit of doubt.
Yeah.
So
That's
how
a
do you
point that you're telling, Naji. So actually, this is true. And then in such times, we have to actually pray to God, for guidance. That will increase our Sharanagati Buddhi, that God, you guide me how I should handle this. The general rule can be that we can try and explain to our children that although it is not very correct what the elders have been doing, but then what is your motivation behind, letting it go? That is something that you can try and explain to your children as they, if they have the maturity to try and understand. If they are very young, then sometimes we can't really explain. But if they are old enough to understand, we must try and explain to them our thought process so that they are seeing us and learning, isn't it? So if we kind of help them understand this thought process that went into deciding how to react or how not to react, then they will pick up that reasoning out method also from us. So then we must tell them that what is the dharma chintan, what is the correct thing, but then what is the other factor that you are considering, and for what reason you have decided to go with this method of handling the situation. If we can teach our children that thought process, if we can help them see that process, how we worked it out, that will be a good thing, so that they will learn from that. And then if the children are very young, then we just have to say that because they are elders, then we have to follow it, whatever they say, like that. Because of course, for our generation, it was different. We were blindly following whatever parents said or whatever elders said without really questioning. And nowadays, it is not like that. The environment is totally different. Our children have very independent views and they have this tendency to question, and we also give them the space to question. So we must not stop that, because the times are different, but we must try and help them see that in some contexts forgiving is also good for us, or ignoring is also good for us. So as I said, that how we are arriving at the decision, what thoughts we have gone through, we must explain that thought to the child so that they also pick up that habit of reasoning out in that way. That is the only thing we can do. Yeah. We have about 4 minutes left. Anybody else has anything? were you able to understand whatever I explained today? Was it okay? You could follow and catch the stream of
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So in that case, if there is nothing more, then we will offer Kritagnyata now and we will stop our session. Let us offer gratitude, Kritagnyata, at the lotus feet of Sri Krishna and Guru for inspiring us to start and to join this satsang. And let us pray for their blessings and grace to always be on us. Thank you so much. Thank you, Zarnaji. Thank you, everybody, for joining in. We will meet again next Tuesday, again at 6:15 p.m. with the next shloka. Thank you so much. Namaskar.
Thank you, ma'am. Namaskar.
Namaskar.
Thank you, Akka. Very nice session. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ansuya.
Namaste.